to class. This class is especially geared for those of you just beginning your yoga journey and maybe you aren't so familiar with some of the poses and the breath work and the movement itself. So this will be a nice steady pace for you. If you are well into your yoga journey, this will be great too. It'll just be a nice chill flow, just moving around a little bit and then taking a nice shavasana at the end. If you aren't so familiar with yoga, the number one tool is breath. So throughout this whole practice, we're going to start by really grounding ourselves, getting our breath nice and steady, nice and fulfilling and full. We're breathing and exhaling, breathing in and exhaling through our nose the whole time. You can exhale through your mouth also if you need to release some heat through your body, so I'll cue that as necessary, but otherwise try to keep your breath flowing in and out of your nose, really filling in your lungs as much as possible and then releasing all of that air out, all the stale air getting in and out of your body, and that will really help you with all of the movements that we're going through. Also, I'll cue your breath work with the movements, but just keep in mind that for every pose that we really move in and out of should be held for either the full duration of an inhale or an exhale. So keep that in mind. We'll get started here. If you have any blocks, that would be awesome. If you don't, no problem. You could use like soup cans or something, just something that's level that you can bring the floor a little bit closer to you if necessary. If your flexibility isn't quite as intense as you think it would be or whatever. So I have 2 blocks here and I'll let you know when to use those as well. But otherwise, welcome. We're gonna get started on our mats in child's pose and settle our breath and calm it all down. So just slowly join me on your mat with your toes together and your knees spread nice and wide apart. Start out here and then just slowly use your hands to walk on down. Oh yes, this one's great. You're just reaching your hands out in front of you. Trying to reach your armpits to the ground is really the goal with this one, while sending your hips nice and low. So you can use your hands as a tool to really push your hips back. But otherwise, maybe you just rest your forehead on the mat and we're just going to settle our breath, taking a few inhales and exhales at even lengths and just building a nice, steady, consistent breath work that we can carry with us through the rest of our flow. Matching your inhales with the length of your exhales. Really just focusing on your breath. Filling your lungs to full capacity. And exhaling all the air out. One more round of breath here. Inhale. Exhale. pull our hands in and come into our tabletop position, just on our hands and knees. Just making sure when we get here that our shoulders are stacked over our wrists and our hips are stacked over our knees. Our tailbone's slightly tucked in. We're really just pushing the floor away with our hands, separating our shoulder blades beneath our back. Reaching out long from the crown of your head. Fire up your core a little bit, just engaging in there ever so slightly. Maybe we rock up and back a little bit just to warm our wrists up. And let's come to stillness on your exhale. Inhale, we're going to drop our belly, send our tailbone high, lift our gaze, and let our heart shine forward. For our cow pose, inhaling at the top here. And exhale, curl in your spine, tucking your tailbone, push the floor away, tucking your head in, tucking your chin, exhaling for cat. Inhale, push the floor away, send your tailbone high, drop your belly, lift your gaze, cow. Exhale, curl it all in real tight, push the floor away, cat pose. Inhale for cow. Exhale, cat. Come to a neutral spine. I'm just going to turn your way so you can see. For this next pose, we're going to thread the needle. So we're in our tabletop position, just making sure that we're nice and strong here. Really pressing into our hands, pressing into our knees, pressing into the tops of our feet. We're going to inhale, lift our right hand up all the way high. Our gaze follows up to the ceiling. And exhale, we're going to send our right hand through underneath of our left palm facing up, all the way through, melting our chest down to the ground. We want our chest also centered to the ground. And then we'll just move our left hand up out in front of us a little bit. Just melting, getting a really good shoulder stretch here. And your gaze can just be over to the left, resting your right cheek on the ground. Just kind of let gravity do the work here. Inhale your left hand back underneath of your shoulder. We're going to send our right hand all the way back up to the ceiling. And exhale it back down. Inhale, left hand goes up to the ceiling, gaze follows. And exhale, send your left hand underneath your right hand, palm facing up, just to rest on the floor. Send your right hand out in front of you a little bit. Chest is centered and parallel with the ground, and we're just letting gravity again do the work on this side. You can rest on your left cheek and just kind of relax here, breathing steadily. your right hand back underneath of your right shoulder and send your left hand all the way up to the ceiling. And exhale your left hand back down to the ground. I'm gonna move back this way towards the front of my mat. You are probably right where you need to be. So we're in our tabletop. We're just gonna tuck our back toes and prepare to go into our down dog just by pressing into our toes and lifting our knees and sending our hips up high and really pressing into all parts of our hands here. Your fingertips, the palm, everything that is touching the ground is really useful and should be really pressing the ground away from you. We're sending our hips up high, and the goal is really to get our heels down to the ground as much as we can. So while we're in our tabletop, you can either just stay here and just see how it feels to be nice and sturdy in your down dog, or you can bob with your inhales and exhales from the balls of your feet, and then exhale your heels back down to the ground a little bit. Be mindful that your shoulders aren't too scrunched up to your ears like this. This will keep you a little too tense up there, so just try to relax your shoulders a little bit, and melting your chest in between the space that you've created with your hands and your feet will really be a nice down dog. A nice strong back here. Just really strong in this pose. Inhale, come to the balls of your feet. And exhale, your heels down to the ground a little bit. One more time, inhale, balls of your feet. Exhale your heels to the ground. If at any point you need to take child's pose during this practice, feel free without me telling you what to do. This is your practice and you treat it however you'd like to. But otherwise, we are going to really press into our hands, really press into both feet here, and we're going to inhale, lift our right leg up into our three-legged dog, really reaching out from the heels here. We want to keep our hips nice and square towards the ground, really pressing strong into our hands evenly. We don't want to lean to one side or the other. And then we could just send our leg up a little bit higher and open up our hip at the top, sending our right heel over towards our left glutes and just kind of opening up the hip a little bit. Maybe you even roll your ankle out a little. On your next exhale, straighten that leg, level your hips, and just lower your right foot back down to the ground slowly. And maybe you pedal your feet out a little bit. Let's inhale our left foot up this time, reaching out from the heel, keeping our hips level and square to the ground. Our chest is nice and square. And then we can exhale and open up our hip a little bit here, sending our left heel over towards our right glute. Maybe rotate your ankle out. Straighten our left leg, level up our hips, and just lower it back down to the ground. Let's lower into a child's pose and just really stretch our shoulders out for a second now that we're warming them all up. Ooh, yes. You can even melt your chest a little bit farther and deeper into a puppy pose. So all that is from child's pose here. We're just kind of pushing our torso, pushing our hands up a little bit forward, and melting our chest even lower to the ground so that your chin is touching and that your hips are nice and high here. We have a little bit of an arch in our back. You can play around with moving your knees a little bit closer together if you'd like. That might make it a little bit easier. Or you can bring your knees a little bit farther. You're almost like pulling the floor towards you in this pose. All right, let's walk our hands back in and press back into our down dog. gently walk to the top of our mat, however slow and however far you get. And then just melt our chest down and fold. You can have a little bit of a bend in your knees here. If you'd like to just kind of melt your chest over the tops of your thighs, that's perfectly fine. If you want to straighten your legs out a little bit more and just play around with getting a little bit more flexibility here, that's fine too. But we're just going to hang out for a second, maybe grab opposite elbows, and put in a bend into one knee at a time, just swaying back and forth with your breath. Come to stillness. And inhale, halfway lift. Just creating a flat back, reaching out from our hips. Chest is nice and forward. Arms maybe are back a little bit, or you can keep them on the ground if you'd like. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we're just going to slowly roll up vertebrae by vertebrae, one at a time, until we get to the top. Our shoulders and head are the last thing to come up, and we can roll our shoulders back with our exhale. We're in our mountain pose here, really grounding down into our feet. We can almost like rip the center of our mat away, pressing into our feet nice and strong. Our tailbone's got a little bit of a tuck into it. Really up dog through the chest, shoulders are back, strong in this pose. We're gonna put our weight into our left leg and step we're gonna put our weight into our right leg and step our left foot back behind us a little bit, keeping a hips width distance, just as far as you'd like. And we're gonna check in with our back foot to make sure that it's at a 45-degree angle with the corner of our mat. Really pressing into the outside blade of our foot here, really pressing in to our foot, sending it forward. We're gonna move into our warrior one pose. So with this pose, we want to make sure that our hips are still facing forward. So if you need to bring your legs in a little bit closer together, that's totally fine. But otherwise, check in with your hips, make sure that they're nice and forward. Maybe you keep your hands on your hips, and then we're going to exhale, bend into our front knee and send ourselves into our warrior one pose. We just want to make sure that our right knee is stacked over our right ankle. Once everything's in line with our lower half of the body, then we can inhale, lift our arms all the way up. Inhale. Exhale, we're just going to open our chest up to the left side of our mat, sending our left hand back behind us, right hand straight out in front, and we are in our warrior two pose now. Really reaching out from our shoulder blades, sending our fingers out nice and wide, really engaged in our fingers will help in this one. And you can play around with sneak, maybe you could sink a little bit lower in this pose. But again, just really actively engaged in both legs is what is important here. And also keeping your tailbone tucked a little bit in, and then we want to make sure that our chest is nice and stacked directly over our hips. So we're nice and strong, and our gaze is just out over our middle finger. Inhale, flip your front palm. And exhale, we're going to just send our front palm all the way up to the sky, and our left hand just back maybe on our legs, just reversing our warrior here, keeping our legs nice and strong and sturdy. On your next exhale, let's just cartwheel our hands down to the ground to frame our foot. We swivel onto our back ball of our foot, sending our heel up high, and we are going to just step back into our down dog position. Maybe you pedal your legs out when you get here. Inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Have a nice little bend in your knees, and you can either, let's all actually just walk to the top of our mat slowly, just hanging out in a forward fold when we get there. Inhale, we can halfway lift. Make sure our back is nice and flat, really engaged in our core. Our tailbone's nice and tucked. And exhale, fold. Inhale, roll all the way back up to your mountain pose. Again, your shoulder and your head should be the last thing to come up. And exhale your shoulders to your sides. Strong in our mountain pose for a breath. Inhale. Exhale, we're gonna step our right foot back to do our warrior one on this side. When we step our right foot back, we're just gonna turn our back foot at a 45-degree angle with the corner of our mat, really pressing through the outside blade of our right foot, and then really pressing into our left foot. Really strong foundation here. Check in with our hips. We're gonna send them back forward so that they're shining forward. Once we're set up here, we can lean into our warrior one. Goal is for your knee to be stacked over your ankle and really strong through both legs. Once you have a good foundation here, we can inhale our arms all the way up. On your next exhale, let's open into our warrior two, just sending our chest and our hips towards the right side of our mat this time, and then our arms straight out from their sockets. Just check in with your back arms. Sometimes mine likes to go up or down a little bit. Just straight out, and then our gaze is over our left middle finger. Again, we're strong in our legs, really pressing in our feet. Maybe you can sink a little bit lower into that front knee. Inhale, flip your front palm. And exhale, send your left hand high, right hand low into a reversed warrior. You should really feel the stretch in your left side body. It feels great. We can cartwheel our hands down to the ground again to frame our left foot, swiveling onto our ball of our back heel, ball of our foot. Hands pressed into the ground, and we're just gonna push back into our down dog. See if maybe you can send your heels a little bit lower now that we're warming up a little. Really pressing into all parts of your hands, sending your chest in between the space you've created, sending your hips nice and high. Shoulders are relaxed. Also make sure your elbows are kind of tucked in here. We don't want to flare them out like this. We just want to tuck them in. Let's inhale our right foot back up. And exhale, we're just gonna curl our knee into our nose here. Really crunch into your core, get it nice and tight, and then we're gonna push off of our left foot, sending our right foot in between our hands. If you have to take a couple steps to get there, that's totally fine. But we want our right foot planted in between our hands at the top of our mat. Once we get here, we can come up to our fingertips, and we're gonna head into our high crescent lunge. So in our high crescent lunge, we really just want to make sure both feet are actively engaged. We're really pressing into that back foot so that our heel is stacked over the ball of our foot. And we want our knees stacked over our ankle here. Once we're nice and strong here, we can take an inhale and lift our arms, lift our chest, lift our gaze all the way up. Maybe you need to move a little bit closer together. Whoop, your legs closer together. Or not. Really using your left glute here. On our next exhale, we're going to hover our torso over our right thigh. Palms facing down to the ground, our shoulders are back. Inhale back to your high crescent lunge. Exhale, drop your right hand behind you, opening up to the right this time. So we have like a little bit of a twist through our spine. And you can inhale back to your high crescent lunge. Bring your foot with your hands at the top of your mat, and we're gonna push back into our down dog. Maybe we pedal out our feet. We're gonna move into that same thing on our left side now. So inhale, lift your left foot all the way up. Exhale, curl your left knee into your nose as tight as you can, really squeezing your core here, tucking your glutes, and bring your left foot to the top of your mat in between your hands. If you have to take a couple steps to get there, that's totally great. Once you get here, maybe come to your fingertips, or, I forgot to mention, if you have blocks, this is a good part to bring the floor a little bit closer to you, maybe hanging out here for a moment. Feel free to use those. When we're nice and strong through our legs, we're just going to check in, make sure that our heel is stacked over the ball of our back foot. We're really strong through our left foot. Inhale, our chest and our arms and our gaze all the way up. Sinking into our high crescent lunge. Exhale, hover your torso over your left thigh, arms go back, palms facing down, chest is nice and forward, really squeezing in your core. And inhale back to your high crescent. Exhale, drop your left hand behind you, twisting open to the left here. Inhale back to high crescent. And exhale your hands to the ground, framing your foot. And step back into your down dog. Bend your knees, look forward, and we're gonna walk, or you can try hopping to the top of your mat. If you're going for the hop, really bend into your knees, look forward, and use your hands to control your hop to get you up to the top of your mat. So really pressing into your heels, and then dropping to the top, or you can walk, whatever you'd like. Hang out in a fold for just a breath. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, roll up to your mountain pose. Feet are hips width distance, really engaged, pressing into the floor. Shoulders are down. Heart is shining forward. And tailbone's tucked. From here, we're going to move into our tree pose. So I'll just move towards you so that you can see what we're going here. So in our mountain pose, nice and strong. We are going to pour our weight into our left leg. So really first build your foundation, make sure your legs are both really strong and even, and then we can start to pour our weight into our left leg here and move into our tree. So bring our knee up, our right knee up a little bit. If tree is a little bit too hard to balance, really pick a gaze on the floor, on the wall, somewhere that's not moving, and focus and channel your energy there. You could also just kickstand your foot like this if you need a little bit of extra stability here. But otherwise, for tree pose, we're going to bring our right foot either to the inside of our left calf or the inside of our left thigh. The choice is yours, but wherever you are, just make sure that both hips are shining forward. Sometimes we have the tendency to follow our right hip a little bit. We just want to make sure that they're both in line. Once we're strong here, continue to breathe. You can keep your hands on your hips. You can bring your hands into prayer, really pressing into both hands. Maybe you play around and bring your arms up, growing your branches. If you grew your branches, bring your hands back down to heart center into prayer. I'm going to turn so you can see the next transition. We're going to move into our warrior three pose. So I'm just going to rotate this way. From our tree pose, we can just lift our right knee so that it's at about a 90-degree angle. We're going to send our torso forward and our leg backwards at the same time in a balanced level so that we are distributing our weight in an even way. It'll make it easier. Pick a good focal point, maybe on the ground will be helpful here. Have your blocks nearby to bring the ground closer to you. If you would like to do a supported warrior three, I'll show you how to do that. But we're going to exhale our right foot back and our torso forward, making one long straight line with our right heel and the crown of our head. If this is too intense, grab your blocks and bring them a little bit closer, the floor a little bit closer to you. You can use one or two, it doesn't matter. Just really make sure that your chest is shining forward. We don't want to cave it in like this. Really breathing out strong here. Our hips are nice and level and square. Really using our right glutes. Woo! This is a great balancing pose. And exhale, you can just fold everything down to the ground. Hips about, or feet about hips width distance, and just fold. Hang out here for a moment. Maybe you grab opposite elbows again and just kind of rock side to side. Come to stillness if you're not already. And inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, roll back up to your mountain pose slowly. Exhale your shoulders down, hands to your sides. We're going to do that same thing on the other side. So moving back into our tree pose from our mountain. Really ground your feet here. Pick a nice focal point. Send your weight into your right leg, lifting your left. Again, you can either kickstand it here. You can bring it up to the inside of your calf. Or you can bring it all the way up to the inside of your thigh. Just make sure that both hips are shining forward. You can keep your hands on your hips. You can bring your hands into heart center, really pressing into both hands to channel your energy where you want it, and breathing evenly. Maybe you grow your branches. Maybe you switch your gaze up a little bit, bringing it to a new location is also really great to help build balance. hands into heart center. We're gonna move into our warrior three. So from your tree pose, you can just bring your left knee into a 90-degree angle. And we're gonna exhale, push our left foot back out from the heel, sending our torso forward, really flexing into our glutes, keeping our hips nice and level and chest shining forward, hands into heart center, or you can use your blocks or the floor, whatever you'd like to help build some stability here. Just creating one long line from the crown of your head all the way down to your left heel. And you can exhale everything back down to the ground and fold and hang out. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rolling back up to your mountain pose again. Exhale your hands to your sides. Let's heel toe our feet together so that our toes are touching and our heels are touching, our legs are touching. We're gonna move into our chair pose. So really press your legs into one another and press your feet into the floor. And then we're gonna sit back into our chair pose. Before we go there, just check in to make sure that we don't arch our tailbone out like this. That's not how we sit. We tuck our tailbone in and pretend there's an invisible chair. We can sink back into that. And then when we're ready, maybe your hands are in heart center and maybe they stay right here. That's totally fine. Or you can inhale your arms all the way up. Maybe your gaze follows. Really engage in your core here. It'll really like suck everything in, not in like a sucking in way, but if you really engage your core, it'll help with this pose, make it feel really strong, while also pressing into your legs is the key. Just check in and look down, make sure that your knees aren't too far forward. We want to just bring it back a little bit so that we can see all 10 toes. Maybe sink a little lower. And exhale, fold down to the ground. Heel toe your feet apart a little bit so they're back to hips width distance. And fold. We'll move into one sun salutation, just one. So we're gonna inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale. Let's plant our hand. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Inhale, roll all the way up to your mountain pose. I forgot to have sun salutation. Exhale your hands down to your sides. Inhale, arms go up, gaze goes up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, plant your hands and step back to your plank position. In our plank, we just want to make sure our shoulders are stacked over our wrists and our heels are stacked over the balls of our feet. Tailbones tucked. One nice long line from the crown of our head all the way down to our heels. Core is engaged. Elbows tucked in. You can, let's all just lower knees, chest, chin from here on our exhale. So lower your knees. And your chest and chin can follow, kind of like a modified push-up, all the way down to the ground. And tops of your feet come down to the ground. We're gonna inhale into our up dog. So really press into the tops of your feet, pressing into your hands. We're gonna inhale, send our chest up, heart is shining forward, shoulders back, Pressing into the backs of our feet so that maybe our knees lift off the ground a little bit. And exhale, push into your down dog. And pedal out here. All right, now it's time to slow it down. So we'll just walk our hands, our feet all the way up to our hands, and we can make our way down to our backs. Slowly rolling. A little bit. All right, so we are on our backs. You can just let your arms go out wide. We're gonna lift our feet up to the sky. Kind of flexing into our feet also. And then our legs are just kind of like almost hovering over our hips. This is a really good pose to aid digestion and all that jazz. So if you're ever feeling a little funky, this one will do it. You just gotta send your blood to the other way. Maybe we just roll our ankles out a little bit here. Let's bring our knees into our chest. Give them a squeeze. And exhale. You can let your left leg go long, but keep your right knee into your chest. Inhale here. Exhale, we're gonna send our right knee over to our left side body, keeping our right arm and right shoulder blade connected to the ground. You could either keep it straight out like this, or maybe you cactus your arms. But we're just gonna get a nice spinal twist here. Just important to keep your right shoulder blade grounded. And let gravity do the work here. Maybe your gaze is off to your right shoulder. Getting a nice little rotation in your neck also. Inhale your right knee back through center. Exhale your left knee back through. Both knees into your chest. On your exhale, let your right leg go long this time, keeping your knee into your chest. Cactus your left arm or send it all the way out. Keep your left shoulder blade grounded. And we're gonna exhale our left knee over to our right side body, getting a nice spinal twist on this side. Ooh, yes, oh my God. Gaze over your left shoulder. Inhale your left knee back through center. Exhale your right knee to meet your left. Give them a squeeze. While we're here, let's reach over to the outsides of our feet and move into our happy baby pose. So the trick with this is we're just kind of trying to draw our knees into our armpits almost. So use your hands on the outsides of your feet to just pull your feet down to the ground, really getting your tailbone on the ground here. You can roll around a little bit. Just pretend you're a little happy baby. Oh, this one's fun. We can exhale both feet back down to the ground so that our knees are shining towards the sky. Let's walk our feet out so they're about as wide as our mat is. Really make sure our tailbone's nice and on the ground, and we're just going to let our knees fall into each other to help with that support of getting our tailbone nice and connected and grounded. And just relax here for a few breaths. We can windshield wiper our knees from side to side a few times. We'll move into our final resting pose for Shavasana. And that is just as simple as letting your legs go long and wide a little bit. Arms out wide, your toes are facing outwards, and just completely surrendering to your mat. Just letting gravity take over. free to relax in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. But if you want to come out of it, just slowly start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, bringing little movements. And eventually rolling to one side. And just slowly making your way back up to a little seated position or wherever you'd like to take it. Thank you for joining me today for a class. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it felt great. And if this is the start of your yoga journey, I hope that this made you want to do some more. But otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day.